Welcome to the Fantasy Football News for Week 3. I am, as always, your illustrious host, Eric. Week 3 saw a marked decline in scores with an average drop of almost 40 points in the combined score of matchups across both leagues. Hard to imagine scoring keeping pace with Week 2 levels. This return to Earth will likely be the norm for the remainder of the season. Week 4 signals just past the halfway point to the trade deadline for teams in both leagues. Keep an eye out for several managers that are looking to make moves, and maybe you can score a sweet deal to improve your team. As a reminder, that trade deadline is November 23rd in both leagues. On to the scores. First up this week, we head out to the Op Soup League. Our first matchup, Stars and Stripes versus Team 1051. It is fairly safe to say that if CeeDee Lamb's 18.7 point Monday night performance is the highlight of your week, then you might be facing an uphill battle. Hoping again for a Monday night miracle, Team 1051 was once again disappointed, managing the second lowest score of the week at just 94.12. Team 1051 is struggling to put together an effective offense. We here at FFN would like to thank him for his donation. Stars and Stripes regressed this week by 27.64 points and yet still manages a win, thanks in large part to the 34.1 point effort of Jalen Hurts, as well as an impressive 28.4 points by Devontae Smith. Stars and Stripes pulls off the victory to move to 3-0, while Team 1051 remains witless at 0-3. Final in this one, 136.06 to 94.12. Up next for Team 1051 is Black Ops MC in a battle of the winless, while Stars and Stripes gets a visit from Rebel Scum in the Thunderdome. Our second matchup, Garbage Time versus Black Ops MC. The struggle continues for Black Ops MC as they post the lowest score in the league for the second week. After pulling off a blockbuster trade for a new starting quarterback, Justin Fields, that quarterback then went on to post an abysmal score of 4.94, while flex quarterback Carson Wentz managed only 8.64 points. No other player broke 12.5 points, with Josh Jacobs being the high spot at 12.2. Black Ops will need a return to last year's form from both Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase to salvage anything from this horrible start. Garbage Time was probably still reeling from the thorough beatdown they received last week from Rebel Scum as they arrived at the Call of Duty Stadium to face off with Black Ops MC. Derrick Henry managed a so-so performance with 22.8 points, while James Robinson and Aaron Rodgers both eclipsed 20 to lift Garbage Time to victory in this one, 119.86 to 80.98. Garbage Time will get a visit from the GFT next week, while Black Ops MC travels to StarTrans Field to take on Team 1051. Our third matchup here in the Ops Soup League was 12th Man Mafia versus the Sandlot Turf Burns. The Turf Bums, Burns, did not manage a top 3 score in the league this week, but they did manage to hold on to those losing ways. Posting a meager 103.88 points, their highlights included a 24.32 point performance from Derek Carr and a 22.3 point effort from Cordero Patterson. Improvement will be needed if the Turf Burns hope to make a playoff run. 12th Man Mafia, on the other hand, managed a 22 point improvement over last week, aided largely by a 31.7 point 400-yard effort from Josh Allen and 24.9 points from Mark Andrews. Moving to 2-1 on the season, 12th Man Mafia has to be happy with where they sit for the moment. Final here at the Sandlot was 12th Man Mafia 135.46 to Sandlot Turf Burns 103.88. Next up for the Turf Burns is Team Scott Scott. The 12th Man Mafia will see action against Don't Remember didn't happen. Our fourth matchup was the Generic Football Team versus Team Scott Scott. Holding on to a slim 23.86 point lead heading into Monday night, the Generic Football Team had to be just a bit nervous as Team Scott Scott had Ezekiel Elliott left to go. Team Scott Scott, for their part, got 31.8 points, 31.18 points from Trevor Lawrence to help the effort, but came up just short as Zeke puts up 14 to keep Team Scott Scott wondering what might have been. Randy and the GFT were hoping for a resurgence this week from Joe Burrow, and that hope was realized as Joe managed 30.5 points. Average performances across the rest of the roster, however, were still just enough to squeak by in this one. Final score 123.88 to 114.02. Week 4 will find the GFT visiting the landfill to face Garbage Time, while Team Scott Scott heads to the Sandlot to play the Turf Burns. Up next, Mike's game of the week. Mike's game. It's Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game. Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. Mike's game. It's Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game of the week. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game. It's Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game. Mike's game. Game of the week. It's Mike's game. Mike's game. Mike's game of the week. It's Mike's game of the week. Game of the week. Mike's game. It's Mike's game of the week. Mike's game of the week. Yeah. After posting over 50 points in week 2, Corey had to know that QB Tua Tagovailoa was due to regress. Just how much would be the question. The answer turns out to be about 40 points. Tua was outscored on DRDH's starting QB, Kirk Cousins, who posted a 22.3 to lead the DRDH roster. Travis Kelce managed a mediocre 15.9, while the DRDH running back core was ineffectual, managing just 13.5 points between them. Rebel Scum, on the other hand, was sweating the injury reports on Sunday, wondering if flex QB Justin Herbert was going to be active. And if he was active, how well would he throw? The answers were yes and not well. Managing a middling 14.58 points, Rebel Scum would have been better served starting newly acquired bench quarterback Geno Smith, who broke 23.4 points while riding the proverbial pine. Rebel Scum, once again, though, was carried by the strong and capable shoulders of Lamar Jackson with his wildly impressive 47.92 points, incidentally becoming the first quarterback in 70 years to score 39 or more fantasy points in consecutive weeks. Winning this one 136 to 116.44, Rebel Scum has not only completed the Casey Gauntlet, but has knocked off one of only 3 teams that were undefeated heading into Week 3. The Week 4 matchups are set. Don't Remember Didn't Happen will don their cement overshoes and head to Jersey to take on the 12th Man Mafia, while Rebel Scum attempts to rule the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Listen on. This is the truth of it. Fighting leads to killing, and killing gets to warring, and that was damn near the death of us all. Look at us now, busted up and everyone talking about hard rain. But we've learned, by the dust of them all, Bartertown's learned. Now when men get to fighting, it happens here, and it finishes here. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. And right now, I've got 2 men. 2 men with a gut full of fear. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
It was Dan Marino week in week 3, and our contest was most passing yards for a starting quarterback. Stars and Stripes owner Mike must have believed he was walking in the buckwheat with new shoes, as starting quarterback Jalen Hurts managed 340 passing yards in the early games. Instead, he got to watch in Oz Josh Allen of the 12th Man Mafia strapped a stewardess to the pigskin for a flight of 400 yards. Congratulations to Veronica. Next week is Jerry Rice week in the Ops Soup League, as we see which receiver can post the highest score with most receiving yards being the tiebreaker. That'll do it for the Ops Soup League breakdown. Stay tuned for the Outcast League scores, as well as the Fantasy Football Wieners, after this quick commercial break.
It's yours?
No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not.
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who play in survivor pools have children who play in survivor pools.
Our first matchup in the Outcast League was Mongo Mentality versus Timinators. Timinators had the brilliant idea of starting Daniel Jones instead of either Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert, both of whom outscored him, a decision that didn't necessarily make a difference in the final outcome of this match, but still might have playoff implications, as points scored in is the first tiebreaker. Jones still managed to be the high point of Timinators' roster with 15.7 points, a situation that was woefully inadequate as they were up against a red-hot Mongo team that showed no signs of slowing in Week 3. Helped by a record-setting performance by Lamar Jackson with 49.6 points, Mongo scarcely needed the almost 50 points that Derrick Henry and Deontay Smith added to his total. Although Mongo Mentality could have scored upwards of 180 points this week, Andrew took his foot off the gas and coasted to an easy victory, 138.8 to 90.8. Next up for Timinators is Rebel Scum, while Mongo Mentality will head to the Aviary to face the Ballhawks. Our second Outcast League matchup is Team Sesh versus Show Me Your Kittles. 6 of 10 teams failed to break the 100-point barrier in Week 3. Show Me Your Kittles was the lowest among them with an 83.1 point total effort. Saquon was his top performer with 20.6, while receiver Terry McLaurin was next highest with just 13.2 points. Moving to 0-3, Show Me Your Kittles may just need to look at a rebranding as Show Me Some Points. Team Sesh had a better game from Pat Mahomes this week with a mediocre 21.7 points, while Mark Andrews found the end zone on 2 separate occasions for 24.9 points. 17 points from the Denver defensive unit were enough to help put this one in the pipe and smoke it for Team Sesh as they improved to 3-0 and remain the only undefeated team in the Outcast League. Final here in the Kittle Dome, Team Sesh 119.8, Show Me Your Kittles 83.1. Next up for Team Sesh is a meeting at home with the fantasy football team. Show Me Your Kittles will be on the road in Flagville as they face Stars and Stripes. Our third matchup, Randall Access Memories versus the fantasy football team. If anybody out there watching had never seen a train wreck, they got to watch one unfold on Sunday as the fantasy football team did almost everything wrong. I'm sure we will hear more on this performance later. I'm also sure Carson Wentz was happy to get the starter nod from team owner Connor, but the rest of the fantasy football team's front office is rumored to be filling bottles with kerosene in preparation for a coup attempt sometime this week. Keep an eye on the fantasy football news for updates on this developing situation. Randall Access Memories was easily able to take the win in this one with another excellent game from Josh Allen with 34.7 points and just a little help from the rest of a mediocre Week 3 lineup. I am sure RAM was happy to escape the FFT field with the win this week, 122.1 to 95.25. Week 4 will see the FFT traveling to THC Field to battle Team Sesh, while RAM will get a visit from defending champ Amy and her Saints for Life squad. Our fourth matchup was Ballhawks versus Saints for Life. Poor quarterback decisions seemed to be the theme of the day, and neither team involved in this matchup was an exception. Saints for Life chose Matthew Stafford this week and paired that with his favorite target, Cooper Kupp. Together, this dynamic duo managed 27.05 points. They received virtually no help from the remainder of their roster, as Saints for Life slips to 1-2 on the season. The Ballhawks put in a hot hand Tua Tagovailoa this week over Aaron Rodgers, and that hot hand, well, cooled off. But thanks to mediocre performances from DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, and C-Mac, the Ballhawks cruised to victory 105.7 to 91.05 and find themselves with a 2-1 record. Next week, Saints for Life will take a trip down Randall Access Memories Lane, while the Ballhawks get a visit from Mongo Mentality. Our fifth matchup and final matchup here in the Outcast League was Stars and Stripes versus Rebel Scum. This match featured two more teams that failed to break that 100-point mark, as Rebel Scum suffered a 22-point regression from week 3. Derek Carr was the lone player to break the 20-point mark for the Scum squad as they moved 0-3 on the season. Stars and Stripes needed little help from his roster, and that is just what he received, with the 37-point performance of Jalen Hurts making up more than a third of his total points scored. It was enough, though, and Stars and Stripes improves to 2-1 with the win here, 99.3 to 84.85. Stars and Stripes will be at home week 4 versus Show Me Your Kittles. Rebel Scum has to get to the chopper as they head out to face the Timinatas. That will do it for our match results. Next up is our weekly Outcast League $5 contest winner. The contest this week in the Outcast League was longest TD pass by a starting QB. Stars and Stripes owner Mike walked away with this one on a 23-yard TD throw from Jalen Hurts. This is Mike's second win this season. Week 4's contest will be quarterback with the most passing yards. The tiebreaker will be fewest completions. Good luck, everybody. Hey, do you smell hot dogs? This is the music for the Fantasy Wiener segment. This is the music for the Fantasy Wiener segment. If you don't like this music, you are free to send in your own. I will gladly use it. If you don't like this music, but you don't want to do anything, well, then I suggest you kindly fuck off.
Hey, everybody. I'm Frank, the Fantasy Football Wiener. I'm here to tell you who else was a Fantasy Football Wiener here in Week 3. The last-minute decision to start an injured Justin Herbert over Geno Smith didn't cost Eric the win, but it did make him a Fantasy Football Wiener. Had Team Scott started either Russell Gage or Ramondre Stevenson in her lineup, she likely wins her matchup. Helen is a Fantasy Football Wiener. Saints for Life could have started Kirk Cousins rather than Matt Stafford and walked away a winner in Week 3. Amy is a Fantasy Football Wiener. Jameis Winston and Matt Ryan both almost doubled starter Carson Wentz's score, and Trevor Lawrence more than tripled it. Instead, these three quarterbacks sat on Connor's bench, along with Tyler Boyd, Ramondre Stevenson, and Amari Cooper on the bench with a combined 56.4 points. Connor could have won this match by 30 points. Connor is a Fantasy Football Wiener. That will do it for the Fantasy Football Wieners this week. I really relished this opportunity. Catch up with you all later.
Thank you, Frank, for that report. That'll do it for the Week 3 Fantasy Football News. Good luck to everybody but Mike and Tim this week. And remember, here at the Fantasy Football News, we're better than you.